So we're installing high rise from Ballard on every one of these mowers except for the Vertex, because we're mostly focusing on these three. But I did bring the Vertex because it has a 35 horse motor, which makes it a lot fairer comparison in the cut. But he's removed the baffle from this side here because he said it discharges a whole lot better. This one doesn't have the baffle removed, but I'm going to show you on these mowers how easy it is to change a blade on ExMark and Hustler versus the Cheetah. And if you're wondering why I've got it up on those pedestals, it's because that's the only way that you can change the blade. You have to have some kind of, lifting platform or something that will let you get the front or the rear of the motor. Once you get it in the air, then you can, change the blades with ease. But I'm going to show you on here the blade change on the SCAG. So I've already done these two sides. Now, the easiest way I've found is to put it up on something like this and then put your foot up and under it and catch the blade and just impact it from the top. Now, I use one of these to remove the blades. And if you get one of these, make sure that you get it with the high output battery. Most of them come with a 2.0 normal, and you will not get the torque that you get with this high output battery. And it makes a big difference on the torque, to take them off. Now, on these blades, so I've already got it up. Once you find a way to get it up or to jack it up, then you can literally just put your foot under here, put it on top of here, take it off. Yes, that thing has enough torque to do that quickly. It is a very stout impact to be a right angle. And the reason I like it is I'm about to show you. So once you do that, you can drop the blade. And as you can see here, I've been running organs 3-inch wide high lift on this, testing them. But we're putting this other one on it today. So you've seen me get that out there. Now, the reason that I just do not like that is because on this SCAG, like I said, if you're in the field, you break a blade or you bend a blade or whatever, and you do not have a way to get the front end up and get up and under there, and a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I can just pull it up on the back of my trailer. You may be able to do that on some of them, but if your deck is going up and under there, you might not be able to get the blades out because look how long. I have to have that front end up at least 1.5 feet in the air because this bolt is that long. It goes all the way through the spindle. So, like I said, on the ExMark and the Hustler, you just take, the ExMark is a 3/4. And another thing I wanted to show on here was this here. So I'm gonna put this on. So I'll put this up under here, and if I want to get this blade off, and this deck is lifted at the highest point, I can literally just stick this up and under here, take this off. Super simple. And I've changed the blades. I don't have to have any exterior tools or anything. I can literally just use this Milwaukee right angle in the field or anywhere and take my blades off and change them within a minute. It is super easy to do. One of the things on the ExMark is look at that little lineup pin it's got. See that there? None of the other ones have that. It's a pretty cool deal. But anyway, I thought you guys would find that interesting. Hustler, same way. You can take those blades off of these. All of these mowers have been, I took the blades, like I said, they've got identical blades. They're all Ballard high lift. Now, this does have a 61-inch cut, but on the SCAG, the ExMark, and the Hustler X-Ride, and the Vertex, I have set the deck to where all the blades are as close to 4 3/4 as I can get. The ExMark actually was like 1/8 over. I couldn't hit it dead on, but the other two are almost identical, and we're gonna make 4 passes with each of them in this grass, and then we will look at the cut of each of them. All right, so here is the SCAG mower, and as you can see, it is a pretty clean cut. There is some up here in this thicker, lusher part. As you go down in this, you get into thicker grass, and the Hustler actually, when I started, you can see there, none of that's been cut. That's too weak, but I had to run into it to do the test, so we won't pay any attention to that, but we'll even look at it just to see. But anyway, you can see some clumps on this grass here, and over through here, you can see there to the side. If you're looking there, you can see some clumps. You can see them better this way, so we'll look this way. You can't see the stripes as good this way, but you can see the clumps better, like through there. But overall, a pretty good cut to be as thick of grass as that is. Now here is the ExMark, and honestly, I do not see as many clumps in the ExMark as I do the SCAG. It is discharged evenly. I'm trying to see if I can find some clumps. So there's a couple little ones right there, but I don't see any major. You walk those and kind of get an idea. I do see some more up here glazed over. It is covered all the way across. Like on the ExMark, I noticed that it has an even glaze over it. And then on the SCAG, I don't see glazing as much, as in like little debris everywhere on the whole thing. I just see a couple of like major clumps in it. Like, see right there? Look at that. That's on the third and fourth. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what I always do. Your third and your fourth you can see, but look on the fourth there. See down through there? See, like there's one, there's one, there's one. Now let's go to the Hustler. You can see the discharge better this way, and then we'll look at the stripe of all of them. I'll go across them pretty fast. So far, I would give the cut to ExMark on that. And that's running like 10, more than 10 horsepower less than the SCAG. Now, we'll go up here. Like I said, this was in the 2-week part. You can see there how thick that is. And there's some hazing from the X-Ride. But we'll go right through here and look at these. And so far, I don't see anything. I literally see nothing on it. You guys can look back. I don't see anything. There's like zero discharge. Let's go on up here. It got real thick in this spot and did the same thing on the ExMark. The SCAG didn't get into it, but you can see the little glazing over it and the ExMark pretty much look like they did the same thing. You can see here, like if you look, see there's like little stuff on top, and like I said, the ExMark is the same way. If you look here, like you've got little fluff on top, which on the SCAG, it didn't get to go into it as much. As you can see there, the grass is a little bit better through there, but there's some through here. But like I said, that SCAG had several big clumps, and I've noticed that with everybody always says that the SCAG doesn't clump. You know, that's what I keep hearing, but I've been mowing with this quite a bit, and I think either everybody's full of it or they're not truly paying attention, because it does have clumps that come out of that deck. And I don't see any clumps on the ExMark whatsoever or on the X-Ride. And the thing about it is, like I said, I put identical blades on every mower, so you can't say, you know, one blade's got different than the other, but I just don't see anything. And you can look at the stripe here, and then we'll go to the ExMark. And they all have a different look of stripe, but I think looking at them, like just from the same view, I think that the video, I don't know, it looks totally different in the video. It does in real life. But I think that the stripe of the ExMark is more uniform. And what I mean is, if you look at the stripe of the X-Ride, you can see perfect tire marks through here, which some people will like, some people will not. If you look at the ExMark, it's almost perfectly the same look from one side to the other. Now, you can still see your tire marks, but it's not near as dramatic as the X-Ride, which the X-Ride is about 300 pounds heavier than the, I think the ExMark and the CHEETAH are about 1,300 pounds, and the Hustler X-Ride is about 1,500 pounds. But on the SCAG, you can still see the tire marks more dramatically on it than you can the ExMark. So it's really going to depend. They're all going to lay a little bit different looking stripe, but I would give the overall better cut to ExMark and Hustler on this cut. And another thing, if you was doing this on a week where it was bi-weekly and you had to go cut this bi-weekly, and this grass was this, lush and thick, and you was chopping it down and you started getting little clumps here and there, and you didn't have even disbursement. And here's a show. I cut from up there back to here with the SCAG, and you can see little clumps in it. And I let this get thick, but I did all that with a different blade and then put the brand new blades on when I did this cut here. But looking at it, I mean, I know without a doubt that the ExMark and the Hustler has a better disbursement of grass on that cut. There's no dew, no wetness on this, and I don't see one clump in either the ExMark or the Hustler. I don't see a single one in it, and the disbursement looks great. So on the Vertex, with that baffle out, I could definitely tell that it discharged differently on the ExMark how the other one was. Now, whether it's better or worse, I mean, it looks about the same. Now, like I said, when we get up here in this real thick part up here, you can see some glazing over on this through here. But overall, I actually liked the cut look better of the sit down compared to the Vertex. And I'll let you guys see that so you can see that, and then you can see this. Like I said, they're totally different how they look. You probably can't tell in video, to be honest, but both of those cut really good. I did notice that the ExMark with the smaller motor for sure bogged more the faster you went compared to the Vertex, because it has so much more horsepower. What I would really like to do is test an ExMark Laser Z with like a 37 Briggs or a big Kawasaki on it, and see how that did. But overall, like I said, in this cut with these blades, I would give the overall cut to Hustler and ExMark, and both of those, they're all really, really extremely good cutting mowers. These are some of your top cutting mowers in the industry. So, you know, this is splitting hairs when you start getting into this. All right, so I'm mowing with this now on these hillsides here, and I've set it to 5 on the cutting deck, which is as close as you can get to 5. And I'm making 4 passes with each of these mowers, because this is the thickest grass that I have currently, and it's real lush and fluffy. And I just want to showcase here with these mowers. If I was getting this mower, I would definitely get a higher horsepower on it. On the heels going up the other side when you're cutting, and it's that thick and lush, I could tell that it bogged quite a bit. So we're going to see how the SCAG does in the same area. And the SCAG only goes to 5 inches. So I just got it in the highest pin that it'll go in. And we're gonna go down through here and make a couple passes. I can't video it while I do it, but I'll kind of show you as I go down. Or I can't video it too well, but I'll show you. All right, so we're gonna do the X ride and make 4 passes with it. All right, so here's the Hustler. Let's go to where it gets the thickest, which is thick all over but the very top. So as you can see, you got 1, 2, 3 blowing this way. So here's the third row, there's the fourth, and you can see there is definitely some, which it gets, that line right there is super thick. But where it got real thick, you can see that. But other than that, the one thing that I could tell you that blows me away that SCAG has chosen to do, knowing their cut, is you can only go up to 5 inches on the cut. So like when you're looking at these right here, you know, I don't see on the ExMark and the Hustler, you can go way higher. So like if you go somewhere and you don't want to have to double cut, you can just cut the yard higher and give you that cut. Whereas the SCAG, you know, you got 5 inches and that's it. And that's as high as the deck will go. But you can see across there, you can't tell on video, but the stripes are ExMark, SCAG, and the Hustler. And on the 2 right stripes in person, the ExMark and the Hustler seem to stripe harder as far as how they, well, I wish you could see it in person, but you can't. But on these 3 cuts, I would say that it goes, I mean, the ExMark and the Hustler are crazy close. I see some on the top of the Hustler in this area. And then you go over here. To me, I would give this to ExMark. And the reason I say that is because it's running 10 less horsepower than the next closest thing to it. Well, the SCAG is a 38.5. The ExMark is the 801V. I don't know what it is. Probably 25 to 27 horsepower. And then that has the new Kawasaki Evo motor. And climbing these hills and stuff and cutting, I don't think that there was much difference coming up the hills on any of them. I think they were all on par. So that means that this ExMark is super efficient in how it's getting the power to the blades and still keeping your RPM up. So, you know, you have to slow down when your RPM starts going down or your discharge shortens. But when I look at these, like I said, just because I think the SCAG was the worst, I really do, because it just, and it's still a phenomenal cut. Like I said, you are splitting hairs when you start getting in these 3. But I just see a lot more. They're all very close. But I just see more. It has the most horsepower. And when you look across, the lighter the stripe, if it's got the same blade, that means there's more grass on top, so you can't see the grass as good. And I can see the grass better. You can't tell in video because it just looks insane. But the ExMark and the Hustler, just, they're all so similar, but I would give this to ExMark. Reason being is because it did the same or very on par as the other 2, and they have way more horsepower. Now, like I said, there's so many things that go into a mower, but I'm very impressed with ExMark's cut. And as you can see here, there is some on the third on the Hustler too, just like the SCAG had on down. but the ExMark seems to discharge up and out better than the other two, and it seems to have a smoother disbursement. I wish I had a wet cut test, but I don't right now. But I'll continue to test these mowers and continue to just showcase these for you guys to help you make decisions. But this is a lighter weight mower than the other two, and especially than the X-Ride. Like I said, I would like to test this with a high horsepower motor and have a hyperdrive and have a Turf Tiger. Actually, I would just keep the Cheetah because it cut better than the Turf Tiger when we did the test. But the Turf Tiger gives you the ability to go up higher on your blade height, whereas, you know, the SCAG has 5 inches. This and the X-Ride have 5.5 or more. So you just have more room with deck adjustment. And this has the adapt. So you could literally just keep playing with the disbursement on any property and see how they, you know, get them to where you wanted them and make the cut exactly like you wanted to have it. I think that's a huge feature to have, especially as a landscaper. But the one thing, another thing that I seen, and I'll put the picture up top, but ExMark has a shortened side over here. So you can put 2 on a trailer easier where it's offset, and you can get it closer to landscape. Whereas Hustler and SCAG have a wider spread front end that's even. So it's just a lot of things to make a decision. But I'm very impressed with this ExMark, and to have this much horsepower and still compete. And even, like I said, I think that the cut on it, the disbursement on this is really thick lush. Like, you can see how much we're cutting off. It is, I mean, it's 4 or 5 inches up above. I wish that video, I wish video would do it justice. It just doesn't. But if you look down through there, I just don't see a whole lot on top in comparison to, like I said, there's a couple of chunks over here in the real, like if you look across the 3 identical, you got a couple of chunks there in that spot. You don't really have that much. You've got light glazing on this. And then over here, you've got a light glazing on it as well. It's starting to dry now where I cut this, 20 minutes ago. I've been doing this. But if you look on the second and the third through this area right here where it's real thick, you can see clumps there, glazed. So, like I said, I'd give it to the ExMark, especially being down that much horsepower and still putting that good of a cut. Go get on the other one. So you probably can't tell in video, but once you get down the end, especially towards this way, you can see how much greener and lusher the grass is. But if you go, you know, let's just judge off of like 15 foot in, then you can see the cut difference in these. And like I said, this has 35 horse cut or horsepower. That has 34.5, and this has 38.5 Kohler. And so you can see here the cut. Like I said, try to look at 15 foot in, because as you go over, it gets thinner, and as you go in, it gets thicker through there and taller. So the Hustler was in the thickest one, but and this was in the thinnest by far, but it's still going to give you guys an idea. I would say that it's going to be really hard to put that into context. I mean, if you look at the first 15 foot of this one, like I said, you can see how much thicker that grass is right there in comparison to like here. See how thin down through there, but it's still the same height. It's just not as lush and thick and wet. In the fertilized didn't go, the guy didn't go as far into this as he did when he went over there and through this. He don't want to get on that hillside. But as I go up there, it's just crazy, crazy thick. So I didn't want to run them through that. But this will give you an idea. They'll cut this down. And I would say that baffle out of that definitely helps that ExMark, because last time we did this and it had the baffle in, the ExMark left a ton more on there, and this looks like a really, really good cut on the ExMark. When you look here at these first 4 passes, and then you look here, like the cut on it from here over, your first 2 are clean, and then you start getting a lot of debris. And then on this one, you didn't get as near much debris, but like I said, it is a little bit thinner grass. The 3rd and the 4th do have a lot on them. But I just wanted to cut in there and show you guys the cut on them so you could see. I would say that the SCAG cut the most of it. It is, like I said, it is a little thinner grass through there, but I would say that the SCAG cleaned up the most of it as far as cutting it down and not leaving as many random strands. Like if you look over here, there's a ton more random strands sticking up through that. I don't know if you can tell in video or not, but like all the way across, there's a lot more strands. And then the Hustler has quite a few strands in it too. It does have a little bit less strands than the ExMark, but the SCAG definitely looks the cleanest.